2019, I'd ran a 225 marathon and a 224 marathon. I've got the British record in the Open.
Client success stories.
We've about 10 that qualify for world champs. I thought at the beginning strength was more important for Hyrox. You don't need to be that strong. Your best bet is to do that exercise. You need to race more if you want to get better. Football players don't play 3 matches a season. If you're willing to be bored, you will get better.
3 years to get me sub 60. What would you do? Hey everyone, just a quickie before we get into the conversation. The podcast is always going to be free, so I'm never going to ask you to pay for anything. But if you could do me the kindness of subscribing and maybe leaving a review, that would mean the absolute world to me. Thank you and enjoy the episode. Tell me a little bit how you got into Hyrox and also a bit about your journey and your sports background, if you wouldn't mind.
Yeah, so from being a kid, I played rugby, got to quite a decent level, but was never good enough to go any further than county level with it. I'm never big enough. So from there, played rugby until late teens, then moved away from home, swapped rugby for drinking, spent most of my 20s drinking and partying, not doing much exercise. So 2 or 3 times a week doing bits and pieces in the gym, running, just ticking over. And then in 2012, 4 weeks before the Belfast Marathon, I entered the marathon. I'd never ran more than 12 miles, I think, before it, and that was grim. So entered that. A week later, I did a 15-mile training run with my friends. Thought I was going to die at the end of it, and I said, I don't know how I'm going to finish this. But got through Belfast Marathon in 2012, and it went actually really well. Like ran 3:12 off of almost no training.
Nice.
At the end, it was grim. I was covered in blood and like cramping and lying on the floor. I had to walk up the stairs backwards for 3 days after, but did it. And then like over the next 2 years, like kind of dabbled with a bit of running. And it got to 2014 and I did my 3rd or 4th marathon at Blackpool, and I got to the end and I said to my now wife, I'm never doing that again without training. So I went from running maybe once or twice a week to all in, which is kind of what I do with most things. So in 2014, I went all in, up to 6 days a week of running, built it through the first year, out every injury you can imagine, learned lots, and then got into 2015 and I'd built up quite a lot of volume and quite a lot of pain, but I'd kind of got my niche down with how I needed to train myself. And in 2015, did Manchester Marathon and broke 3 hours, and it was almost as bad as the first one I did, and there was blood everywhere and I had to walk backwards for a couple of days. But from then I've just been completely all in. Kept running until 2021, and that COVID time I kind of just got really bored of just running and not racing. And I was in the gym one day and someone said to me, I'm going to do this session, you want to have a crack? I said, yeah, what is it? And he was very, very Scottish and said to me, it's whatever he called it. I couldn't remember what he's called it. I spent 2 days Googling it, and I was like, I can't remember what he's saying. All different types of spelling for Hyrox, obviously, is what he said. And I couldn't find it. And he came in 2 days later. I said, Ali, what was that you were on about? He said, Hyrox. All right, cool. Went on. This was when you used to be able to get tickets without having to sell your nan. Got a ticket for Glasgow. So this would have been the beginning of this was the end of 22, summer of 22. So I didn't got a ticket for 23, but 2 weeks before the London November, they used to have a wait list. So I added myself to the wait list and I managed to get a ticket through there before the days of ROPS tickets and people buying them online and stuff. Got that, turned up and did London XL, and I finished it. And I said to the boys, that was the most disgusting and awesome thing I've ever done. Like it went well within reason, but I was in, like I was hooked then. Like just having that, my type of personality, the objective data, you can look at the end of your race and look what went well, what went badly, which, you know.
That you 102.22.
Yeah. So it was a pretty good opener. But, in 2019, I'd ran a 225 marathon and a 224 marathon. So, like, I had a really good running base. And I'd always done 1 or 2 strength sessions. But we're talking like 20, 30 minutes a week, just enough to tick over because I knew I had to. but I really don't like doing it. And I still don't really like going in there and doing a full proper strength session, sitting there for 2 to 3 minutes recovering. I'm just staring at the wall thinking, could be doing something else right now. I do it because it's necessary evil, but I try and skin it in different ways now where I can not be completely bored and still get the stimulus I need out of it. And Hyrox kind of does that because you need the strength with the higher heart rate as well. So, yeah. And now we're in 2025. I've done 21 races. I managed to go to the World Champs in my first year. I went again last year, but was sick and missed the solo race. I've had some pretty good results. I've got the British record in the Open, which I broke again in Stockholm in December there, which is it. And I've got
What's
some pretty
that
decent...
the British Open record, which one?
50,
What's that?
54.48, Stockholm in December. And before that was Copenhagen, 55 something, high 55s. So I took 55.40 or something like that.
Yeah, I was looking. I don't know if you get the same thing, but looking at the Hyrox stats can be quite overwhelming after a while. You start to get quite confused, and I'm like, hang on a minute, okay, so that's pro, and then that's open, then but that's but that's the elite men, and then you go, and now you've got the whole thing with the data all messed up the other week, didn't it?
Well, they changed the system in beginning of January, yeah. So
in Manchester, yeah. And I seen this morning, I was like doing a little bit of research, and I was like, "Who's Davy Toffs?" Have you seen this?
No.
So, do you use that high result, or do you use a different one?
It's good.
Yeah,
no, high results good, and RoxFit's the one I use.
Yeah. So I'm looking at the all-time rankings for pro men. Davy Toffs, this like Belgian guy, 47-24.
So
and I'm like, yeah, who is this freak? And I'm like I'm looking on Rox Live. I'm like, I haven't seen anything about this guy.
That
and then I look
actually
on
happened to me
Hyrox official.
in a proper race. So I think it was Birmingham in 23. I came first overall and first in my age category, and I got to go on the podium, and they called me out in second, and then they called the first place out in like 48 minutes or 40 ridiculous time. And I said to the bloke, like, that's at the time before Ron ran his 50, it was like 10 minutes quicker than the world record or something. I said, how are you doing this? So like there's always going to be teething problems when they've got thousands of people going through there with all of those different checkpoints they need to pick up so we can get all of these stats. You're bound to have some teething problems, but people don't take it well in Hyrox.
Yeah, no, yeah, for sure. Yeah, it was a bit of a mess the other weekend, but yeah. So Davy Toffs, DNF. He did 3 runs.
Solid.
But yeah, so he's picked James Kelly and Hunter McIntyre off at the top. So as it stands, then, so in the all time, according to this Hyrox Pro Men rankings, then it's put you down to 16th. So I presume that'd be 15th.
But so because they don't that high results, they don't include the elite results as well, just the pro. So if you mixed, but then they're different races. They're only racing with 15 people on a course. And that is kind of a bit of contention at the minute with a few of the blokes that are in that 15 to 40 qualifying space, where the people that are in that top 15 to 20 are getting to do the majors and getting really fast times in these majors, but they're also racing on courses with only 14 other people. And you are saving time. They say the grid's slower, but it's not anymore because you don't do the farmer's carry on the grid. There's only one more turn on the lunges really, and most burpee broad jumps now are four lengths. So whether you're doing it on the grid or in the other things, on a normal course is not really relevant. So the grid isn't really, not that I've raced on it, but like looking objectively from the outside, it's not really any slower anymore. The times are slightly different because they don't include the RoxZone. So the splits look different, but the actual courses now,
they don't include they don't include the RoxZone in the elite splits. Is that what you're saying?
So if you look at some of the splits, you'll think, wow, that doesn't look like a great station time, but that station time includes half of the RoxZone, and the run includes the other half of the RoxZone. So each race they seem to place the mat in different places because of the grid, and because they usually have the open races the next day. they have to move all the mats around. But yeah, the splits don't. So if you ever look at any, so the last one for some reason, I think Vegas, they did include a RoxZone, but that's with this new timing system. So anyone before that, if you look, even on high results, it'll just say the workout time and the run time, and there'll be no breakdown of the RoxZone time on the end.
Yeah. I think they did something. I think they did the same with the relay, because they did relay for the first time at Manchester, and that was the same. I mean, we didn't get our time until Monday, anyways. We didn't get anything.
Yeah, they made a mess of that one.
Sorry, we got our overall time. But I always think it's the one thing that's a little bit annoying is I wish you could get. I know it's obviously a bit difficult to do. I'm sure there's a better way to do it, but it's a shame you don't get your actual erg time.
Yeah,
because you have that mini RoxZone in and out. Because I did row on the relay, and everyone's like, "Oh, how did you get on?" People who do rowing but don't do Hyrox, and I was like, "Oh, I don't know. I think it was like 4 minutes or something." But that's not the time, if that makes sense. So it's like, I don't know, it was like 3.5, something like that. But yeah, it's all fun, isn't it? I think, like you say, there's the analytical side of it. If you're that way inclined, is so addictive, and must be. I mean, it must be a coach's dream to have all that data.
Yeah, yes, and you're like yes and no, because the courses are so different, and it's pretty obvious now that. So I've spent a lot of I'd say the last year, trying to get people out of the mindset of chasing times, because it's the same as like running as well. If you could run a flat 10K versus a hilly 10K, the times are going to be completely different. The same with these courses now. I know they say the run and the RoxZone are 8.8K all in, but I don't know if they ever really are. And a 200 or 300 meters difference is going to be, depending on how fast you're running, a minute to 2 minutes. So that's not a massive gap. And then the size of all the stations are slightly different. So like you were saying with the running in for the row there, you might get into a row station that's got 4 lengths of rowers, so you've only really got a 30 or 40 meter run in and out. Or you could go into one that's got 60 or 70 rowers like Birmingham in a straight line, and then you've got nearly 100 meters of running into that, or 50, 60 meters of running into that station. All of those little things add up depending on the course. And then you get a hot venue versus a cold venue. Like Stockholm in December was probably like 15 or 16 degrees. If you stood there in a t-shirt, you got chicken skin. Whereas in Nice in June, you could have cooked an egg on your chest. It was that hot. So it's getting the balance right and trying to focus your effort on that day to get the best result you can, like rather than trying to chase that sub 70, sub 60, or whatever it is. Like, they're great times and they're great goals to have, but if you put all your eggs in that basket, you are going to be disappointed 9 times out of 10 probably. Whereas if you execute properly from the training you've done, and you run a good race where you've left everything on the floor, so that the last wall ball is you're the last bit of energy you've got, so you stumble across the line, then you've had a good race. Or even if you've got a little bit left. Not if you get to the sled and you're already dead, and then you've got another 6 stations to go after. It's a tricky balance, but it's what makes it really, really fun. And there's people out there, excuse me, that are way better at this sport than me, that aren't running as fast at times because they're not racing smartly, because they're trying to go after things early. And then once you burn your matches in this sport, you ain't getting them back. You redline in an hour-long race or an hour-and-a-half long race, you aren't really going to come back and finish strong. It's just going to go downhill from there.
Yeah, it's interesting because so this season I am chasing sub 70. That was the goal, and that was my goal at Birmingham. And I ran a great race, the most relaxed I've ever felt. Like running pretty quick, smiling. Very different to how I'd raced before, because it was all like David Goggins mode, like, and that was like real progress for me, for actually really enjoying the race, but learning how to like back off a little bit to go faster almost. Although I did blow up at the wall balls, because my last run I went into the top 1% of people because I felt like I had to catch up. did a PB on the last one, and but then and I finished, and I was like a minute and a bit shy, and I was kind of like, like, and again, it's like I wasn't comparing like for like courses because but it's hard to work out if you're using that as like as an excuse
Yeah, yeah.
versus it's hard. But I did look at, I thought looking at the percent, I mean, you may not agree with this, but I looked at like the percentage, my overall percentage ranking, how that
Yeah,
changed, and that had increased like quite a lot.
that's
Felt
something
like
I
that was
use.
maybe a better
Yeah.
comparison.
And where you finish overall in your age group, or percentage of age group, because like Birmingham probably had 10, 15,000 people there. If you're finishing in a higher percent in a race where you had smaller amount of people, you are doing even better. Like, and Birmingham was tough. Like I did the pro and it was my worst race ever. Probably I made a complete mess of it. The sleds were like, the sleds were horrible,
Those
but
sleds were awful, weren't they?
what people don't realize is what that does towards the end of your race. So if you're spending an extra minute on a sled push and an extra 2 minutes on a sled pull, you think, it's only 3 minutes, but the compounding effect of that when you get to the lunges and the wall balls later down the line, and you've used up all of your energy already pushing these and pulling these heavy sleds, it's compounds so that you're adding on 5 or 6 minutes at the end. So I would say that Birmingham was probably 2 to 3 minutes slower than a course you might get in Europe, especially a Scandinavian course and a German course. But they are all different. So you might go to, like, we went to Maastricht a couple of weeks ago, and I was expecting for the sleds to be on wheels. And when I got there, they weren't heavy, like Birmingham heavy, but they weren't as light as I was expecting, and the course wasn't as fast as I was expecting. So, and I didn't perform as well as I was expecting. And you go into each one with expectations, and you get humbled a lot of the time.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a really interesting point, and I've never heard someone talk about it like that before. But you're so right in all, what you were saying just a moment ago with all like you said, the mini rock zones and all those little intricacies. It's not even about, I guess what you're saying. It's not even about the course. Like it is about the course, like, but also the stuff that changes on race day as well on that course, and maybe how they've laid it out and stuff. So yeah, no, it's interesting. What I want to just ask you a little bit about PBs. So just to get an overall, like, we talk about hybrid athletes, and like what defines a hybrid athlete. And this is something I think about sometimes. And I always think to myself, like, oh, am I just like an average runner who can do a little bit of strength, or do you know what I mean? So what about your lifting and stuff? Where you at on there, your 5Ks, all that sort of stuff?
So yeah, I'm definitely not a hybrid athlete. I'm a Hyrox athlete. I wouldn't want to do any of the other ones. They don't. Hyrox was almost perfectly built for me. Like even Decker, I think is probably too short and too fast for me. But I think Hyrox is almost the perfect setup for me. So with most of my running PBs are 2019, 2020 before COVID, or yeah, one of them was in COVID. So my 5K PB is 15:30, 10K is 32:04, half marathon 69:40, and then marathons 2:24:50 something. So I got under 2:25 by the skin of my teeth, which it wasn't actually the goal for the day, but it went well.
How have they changed? Like, so have you tested any of those recently in the last 12 months?
No, I don't think I ever want to run another proper 5 or 10K. 10K is probably the most disgusting race you could ever do if you get it right. It's horrible from start to end. Yeah, you're on that borderline of blowing up or getting it perfect, and I've only probably got it spot on once or twice. But yeah, I ran a marathon in 2023, but my longest run before that was 12 miles or 20K for about the 8 months before it. So I had an entry from the year before that rolled over, and I just went and did it and ran 2:38 still. So I've got an entry to Berlin this year, and I'm 40 in August. So although I say I don't want to talk about hanging everything on times. It'd be sweet if I could break 2:30 at 40. I think that would be a really solid goal. But if I don't, I won't be at all annoyed or disappointed. And then strength wise, these could be a little bit embarrassing. They're not great. So squat, back squat, 1 rep max is like 130. But I've never done a cycle of it, and I've never done it fresh. Like I would have done, like we tested it before Christmas, just to start the new training block. So we had a line in the sand. Deadlift one, I'm a lot better at deadlift than I'm squatting. I don't know, because I'm quite close to the ground. 180 probably. Bench press, 100. And then my shoulder press is seriously poor. I think my 1 rep max shoulder press is like 60, 65 kilos. So I do.
They're all
Yeah.
right. I mean, it's interesting as well, because like you're strong on wall balls, right?
I am now. I wasn't when I started. So my first pro wall balls took me seven minutes or something. So it was the world champs in 2023, and I went in first and crossed the line third. So since that day, I've been hard on the wall balls.
Let's talk a little bit about that sort of like strength building. And I know you said it's not your favorite, so let's talk about it now. But we were talking about, let's say, take the wall balls for example. When we're looking at, let's say, off-season, pre-season prep, building up your strength, maybe building up your hypertrophy to an extent, what's more useful to take to utilize into a training block? Is it like just the strength bit, which is more of a neural element, or do we need some hypertrophy in there to be able to like mold and utilize that tissue? What's going on there?
So to me, strength, so I thought at the beginning strength was more important for Hyrox than it probably is. So you don't need to be that strong. In the open, you really don't need to be that strong. You need to be able to control yourself and manage the race so that you can attack the stations. It depends what avenue you've come from. If you've come from a running background or a strength background, you're going to have to attack those in slightly different ways. But there's an ROI on strength which kind of tops out pretty fast. So most people can get to a decent level of strength for them pretty quickly, and then maintaining that's pretty easy. Trying to grow past that takes a lot of time and a lot of volume in the gym, which I don't think is the best use of time for Hyrox, because it's a fitness race. It's not a strength race. You're going for, like, even the pros are going for over 50 minutes. So it's a strength endurance race. So you need to be able to put high numbers of output at a high threshold heart rate. And if you go above that threshold, you can't put those numbers out because you've got nowhere to go. So you're reaching your ceiling already. So with the strength training, you need to do it depending on where. If you're very, very weak and you can't move the sled, even when you're fresh, then you need to do more strength training. If you can push the sled for 50 meters in training pretty comfortably with the open or the pro weight, and now we've got the center sleds, the push isn't even that hard in the pro. Even in some sticky places, it's slow, but most people are pushing it fast enough if they control it right and they're into it with a controlled heart rate, which doesn't happen very often because
there's no eccentric as well, is there? So it's
none. Yeah,
that's why
the pull is where I think a lot of people get caught out. The push is only hard if you're already gassed. The pull, on the other hand, being a little bit heavier and a bit stronger is going to help. But you also need a high level of fitness, because if you're pulling a sled for 50 meters, you're probably pulling that, depending on how strong you are, you're doing either anywhere between 40 and up to maybe 60, 70 pulls of that sled to get it moving. And obviously, if it's a bit stickier, it takes more. So that's a lot of pulls. That's a lot of energy you're burning. So it doesn't matter how strong you are. If you don't have the aerobic capacity and the threshold to be able to keep that sled moving, you're going to have to take massive breaks, and a lot of them. And if you're taking those breaks, you also want a big aerobic system to recover in those breaks. Because if you don't have it, you won't recover. It doesn't matter how much of an anaerobic monster you are, you're going to burn out. And then, like I said earlier, it tumbles down throughout the rest of the race. So being specific with the sled, I think, is I get where people come from saying, do all of these other strength exercises to get better at that exercise. Your best bet is to do that exercise because it is technique based as well. The sled pull is so much on technique, rope management, and fatigue management that you need to be pulling it and getting used to pulling it. Like, do the other strength exercises to help you get stronger. But if your real goal is to be good at Hyrox, do those movements more, because there's there's principles in exercise physiology, the SAID principle, like specific adaptations to induced demands, or implied demands. Your body adapts to what you put on it. So if you embarrass your body a little bit by pulling the sled and it not moving one day, and then you apply it, you will adapt to that. So the next day you will be strong. Well, obviously not next day, but in concurrent days you'll be stronger so that you can pull that sled better. And then we just keep adding on a little bit more. So you're a little bit more, so that you get more and more comfortable. You'll build up those neural pathways of being able to do the technique, but you'll build up the fitness and the strength as well. But so that's where I think more gains can be made with people being more specific with their training. And I get that it can get quite boring doing the same 9 movements over and over. But if you've come from a running background where you just pretty much ran 100 miles a week, winning in, week and out, having 9 exercise or an extra 8 exercise on top of the running, it's a gift. Like I could do just those exercises and not touch anything else week in, week out with no problem about being bored. If you're willing to be bored or repeat similar stuff, you will get better at those things. And there's obviously a plateau, but then you just change it up slightly of how you attack it. So there are lots of ways to skin this cat in Hyrox, like especially with the different types of people that are coming into it. So I coach people that are really, really strong, who make me look like a baby, and then the ones that have come from a really, really good running background, who can run 16, 17 minute 5Ks, but can only bench 50, 60 kilos. And it's finding the balance for those people to get it so that you can get good at Hyrox if that's your goal. If you want to be a hybrid athlete and do everything, then it's slightly different to being a Hyrox athlete. I think and we've got all this data, like you said, that we can go back to and look at and go, right, your lunges were, everywhere you're in the top 25%, but your lunges, you're in the bottom 25%. Let's hit the lunges more. And it's okay being really, really strong. Like, being able to do a walking lunge with 100, 120 kilos is completely different after already working for an hour, picking up a 30 kilo bag and doing 100 lunges. If you are already gassed, it doesn't matter how strong you are, that 30 kilos and that 100 reps or 110, depending on how long you strided, it's going to hit you completely different.
Wow. It's really interesting and very refreshing to hear your perspective, because I feel like within the industry, certainly like the Hyrox coaching industry as well, from my perspective, it does seem like there's this, you've got to work on your strength if you're a runner, and vice versa. You've got to work on your running if you're a strength, which fits quite neatly into a box, I suppose. And I wonder if it's almost like a protective mechanism for coaches, rather than saying, so you shit at lunges, do more lunges, because that's so simple. Is there a tendency for people to say, well, no, it's all about your aerobic base, and we need to do this, this, and that, and then we need to build up your overall, and then it's like whole complex thing. And and it's what you're saying, at least from your perspective, is maybe we should get back to basics with this stuff.
Yeah, like even so, I work predominantly in rehab, and the same thing happens in there. People try to they try to justify their rehab ability by trying to make things complicated when most of the basic things are going to work. And then we social media and modern day make this 100 times worse because there's so much information out there, and the algorithm and human beings want to be in a camp. So left or right of arc, they either want to be part of this group that does this, or this group that does that. So they align to those principles. Whereas most things are just balanced. And although I don't like saying common sense because it's not that common, but like make it like the Occam's razor point of view, where doing the simplest thing or the simplest answer is probably the correct answer, or the simplest way of doing things is probably the correct way of doing it. When we start adding in extra things, like it takes that boredom away, but it doesn't fit with how the human body works. Like that, we get better by doing the things that we want to get better at. So doing random stuff is exciting and fun, and that's okay if that's what you want to do in training. But if you really want to be good at something, you need to do that thing. Like people don't like practice cooking to get better at the piano. So so I don't understand where this comes from. I can see where somebody has put it, but sometimes because it looks like it fits doesn't mean it does. But history shows that doing what we need to do to get better, like doing the thing, makes us better at the thing, and just doing progressive overload and loading up more and more of that skill. Like I can tell you now, like my first set of war balls back in 2022, I could barely do 15 with a 6. Like 2 years later, I could probably do 200 unbroken with a 6 now. Like not about 6 months ago, I got a 12 kilo war ball and I picked it up for the first time, and I did 19 unbroken and had to take a knee. Now I could probably do 60 or 70 unbroken and I haven't got any stronger. Like I am no stronger now than when I was. So if I retested my squat then and my shoulder press then versus testing my squat now and shoulder press now, they would be within kilos of each other. Whereas my capacity to do war balls is completely different. And all I've done is more war balls. Lots and lots of more war balls, thousands of war balls. It's a skill pattern. So our neurological pathways get better, our CNS gets better, our PNS, we start firing better. Our ability to control that war ball or whatever movement it is gets better because we've done the pattern. The body gets comfortable with doing that, and we just settle into doing it. So I don't think doing loads of totally random stuff makes you better at Hyrox. It may keep you coming back to the gym to do training, but it depends on what your goal is.
Yeah. I suppose that's the thing as well, is we're having this discussion and we're talking purely for performance in Hyrox. We're not saying necessarily to, enjoy yourself in the gym. And, if you do get bored of Hyrox and you need that from a psychological standpoint, okay, yeah, maybe something else is better during your off season. But if you like doing Hyrox, then there's what you're saying is there's no reason why you shouldn't do it all the time.
Yeah, but like I put strength into all of my programs, and during the off season we'll probably do 2 strength sessions a week, and then as it blends through and out the season now into like that, we're doing probably one strength session with a bit of conditioning, and then 2 Hyrox type sessions, because people generally enjoy doing them. They want to go in and they want to do a session that leaves them at the end feeling like they've done something, and they want to walk out as if they've made progress. Sometimes when you go in and do a strength session, if you do it properly, you'll leave thinking, we've done a lot. So sometimes just to get them to feel that they've done a session, I'll throw a 10-minute finisher in the end just to get sweat on for people. But I think people try and train too hard as well. So like you do not need, this is not a red line sport. If you are doing red line workouts all the time in that zone 5, whatever you want to call it, or 3, free zone model, that top end stuff where you're hitting high heart rates all the time, you're leaving a workout feeling completely gassed. It gives you the wrong sense or the wrong feelings of how this should feel as well, because at no point in a Hyrox, apart from maybe on the last 20 or 30 wall balls should you be feeling like you're out of control. Because if you're feeling like you're out of control, you're above your capacity to work for that amount of time. So you need to slow down and chill out. Like, workouts are designed to build you up, not break you down. So, all right, we break ourselves down a little bit so that we can improve. But if all you want to do is embarrass your body a little bit, so let it know, oh, I need to do something about that. If you completely humiliate it, you're just going to keep breaking yourself down. If you keep humiliating yourself and your body all the time, you'll just break down and overtrain and won't be able to make any progress. You'll get burnt out, bored, feel dejected, and just not want to do it. So I try to keep people in that zone where they feel like they've done a good bit of work and they've, grafted for the day on those harder days, but they're not leaving the gym and feel dead and need to have the rest of the day where they have to sit down and they can't go about their normal day, or if it's in the evening they can't sleep because their heart rate's so high. And we just blend that with moderate to hard and then very easy. And I think people just try and send it all the time, and they're not making any progress, or they're giving themselves a false sense of security. So when they go into the race, they think they can go hard from the gun, and you can't. You need to learn to pace this just like you pace the rest of your life. You can't be on full send all the time. So I think dialing it back, realizing what you can and can't do in training so that it crosses over into racing. Because I think people are doing a lot of stuff in training and then they're really trying to hold on and they're getting through it. But racing is nothing like training. We like the little group that I train with and we coach, we got a realization early on that this training and what we can do in training is very much not what racing's about. So you get a massive shock in racing if you try and do what you've done in training.
Tap into that a little bit more for me. What is it about racing that makes that you can't treat it like you would training?
I think so. It's definitely harder. So the races seem to, like, I don't know, like I've never in training or a sim have I ever had Hyrox mouth, like, where the air conditioning just sucks the air, where it feels like you've just eaten a handful of sand. Like, that's never happened to me in training. Every sim is slightly, even if you do a full sim, I could probably go out now and rinse out a 52 or a 53-minute sim in my gym, and then go to do a race, and you're adding 6-7 minutes onto it. I don't know the answer, like, to why it's so different. Like, the atmosphere, the humidity in the events, everything about it is just different. I even have all of the same kit that they use, the center kit, in my gym, and it's still not the same. Nothing feels the same.
It's obviously a nervous system thing, isn't it? It's like there's like that anticipation around it. And like you say, those dry lips, I feel like that's not a physical thing. That's psychological, surely. Like, obviously, it manifests physically.
Yeah, I don't know if it's something to do with the aircon as well, but I thought that, actually, and then I did Berlin, and it's outdoors, and there's no aircon there, and I got it on the first lap, and I was like, what's going on here? This doesn't make any sense. But I've never had that in a running race or anything like that. Hyrox just seems to be, I don't know if it's the constant movement of different muscle groups or something, or the anxiety.
Maybe it's just like all the testosterone in the air, just like chapping your lips.
It could be.
I've never known it quite like it was at the relay. Fucking hell. Honestly. Like, it like, literally, all of us had like blue lips. And remember, like, this one guy finished who was in another team who was local to me, and his lips were bleeding. Like, he had like blue bleeding lips. I'm like that is my memory, like, scoured in my mind of the relay.
Torture. Yeah, it's grim. I don't know. Yeah,
but I think so good.
I think it's just it's a strange event. Like, there's a lot of ego around Hyrox, like, and a lot of people get caught up in the white line fever at the start, and it goes out hard, and a lot of the people going out hard soon go backwards, and a lot even give up. Like, when I was in Stockholm, I went into the ski erg in like 4th or 5th, and by the end of the sled pull, I'd overtaken one, and the two people that were in the sled pull in front of me, or sled push, I can't remember, had both quit because they'd gone out too hard and realised that that was it. They were in the locker. So I think there's a lot to be learned through racing in Hyrox. So learning your craft, like people like this. Also, this don't race. I know how hard it is to get tickets now. Like it's almost impossible unless you've got a affiliate or you go on Rox Ticket and buy one at the last minute or whatever. But you need to race more if you want to get better. Like only racing 2 or 3 times a season, and people saying, "Oh, you need to do a good build up of 12 weeks and then recover and then rebuild." No way. The elites aren't doing it. Like they're racing week in and week out. Like they look at what John Wynn did before Christmas. He raced like 5 weekends in a row or something mental to try and get his time. I don't think it was that much. I think it was 3 or 4 weeks. But like they're racing all the time and they're practicing their craft and they're working out where they get better, where they can push, how it feels different in a race, what they can control, what they can't control. And like I started my season and hadn't raced for 6 months individually, and it was a cluster. My first 2 races were awful, like embarrassingly bad. I was almost ready to go, I don't know what I'm doing. But I know what I was doing. I went out too hard on both of them and they were terrible. And then I did the pro in Birmingham on the Friday night and then raced on the Sunday in the open, in the doubles, and my Sunday race was probably the best race I've ever had. I was like laughing and smiling, like running around, like the sled. I went to pull the sled and I did one pull and I reckon it went about 4 meters. I felt like Superman. And then on the Friday, I thought I was going to have a cardiac arrest. Like I'd started doing Barbie broad jumps, just laid on the floor and wanted to cry. And like there was about 20 people there watching me, and I was like, I'm embarrassed. The war balls took me forever as well, so it's pretty grim. But as we're into January now. Like my race in Maastricht wasn't perfect, but I still went sub 60 for the pro, feeling pretty decent. And by the time I got to Stockholm in December, after racing 5 or 6 times, I raced twice in one day, and both were like some of my best performances because of how I controlled the race. Like the way I felt the whole way through was never on edge, but I was still hitting really good splits. I think you just got to go out there and race more. Learn what you can and can't do with your body. Take some risks. Like, don't have a massive taper into it. Like, train through it, and just go out and race. Take all the pressure off. If you race more, when you get to the start line, you won't be anxious because you know exactly what you're doing. Like, you know the pressure's off. You've probably only done it a couple of weeks before. You know you can do it. Just go and attack it, or don't attack it. Slow off and push the second half. Football players don't play 3 matches a season. They play every week, sometimes twice a week. I know it's a little bit different, but like rugby players do as well, and they're getting smashed about for 80 minutes. So I don't think you need once you're in the season, go and race, go and have fun, go and do the sport you love doing. Don't I love training, and you have to love training to be able to train twice a day, every day for 10 years. But you have to love the sport you do as well. Why are you doing it? If you're so anxious and scared, like every time you go and do it, and you put so much pressure on yourself to go and achieve a time, you're not doing sport. You're self-harming. Like there's no fun in that. Like, and none of us here are, or none of the people I coach are going to earn any money from this. Like, probably, like you're doing it because you love doing it, or because you want to do it, or that there's something you enjoy doing about it. But if you get to race day and you don't enjoy it, then why? Don't just train and just don't race. Just do the training.
Yeah. So interesting, man. There's so many things in there where it's like, race more often, which is exactly the opposite of what you hear all the time. There's train Hyrox all year round if you want. And then there's the don't worry too much about strength element, which I feel are like 3 things I've picked up on, which seem to differentiate you with the sort of dogma that perhaps surrounds Hyrox. Are there any other elements of your coaching or training strategy or what's the word? Methods that are like a little bit unorthodox that we've not covered?
So, like, mine is pacing, and I don't like. I think it's like it seems to be a dirty word in Hyrox. Like pacing the race to perform your best. So, what really annoys me, like, and it honestly sends me bonkers, and I get triggered by it. And I'm nearly 40 years old. I shouldn't get triggered by something on social media. Is this winning the station, or I'm the fastest runner in Hyrox, or I won the Barbie Broad jumps, or look at how much I've improved. This is actually a bit of tangent, but look at my time on this, and I'll look at it on this, where the first time was from a relay, and the second one was, or the other way around, the first one was from a solo race, and the second one was from a relay. They're completely different things, but they get clicks, and it's clickbait. But I don't care if you can run 26 minutes for the 8K in Hyrox, and your overall time is 105. I've beat you by 10 minutes. Thanks. Like I could run 26 minutes. But why? Because that's not how I perform best in Hyrox. That's irrelevant. Like I can put that online and go, oh yeah, look. I tell you actually a perfect example. My second race in Glasgow, I was first overall on the run-in, all right, for the 8K, but I finished like 11th. It was terrible. My next race in Stockholm, I slowed my runs down by 10 seconds per K, 10 to 15 seconds per K, dropped below my threshold. All of my stations were better, and I was nearly 3 minutes quicker, I think. I know different courses what we're saying, but I wasn't the first overall in the run-in. I played to my strengths, so that I know if I go into... I now know that I've raced... I think I've done 21 races. Some were doubles, but I know that what I can manage effort-wise on an open and on a pro. So I know if my heart rate and my effort level get too high in a pro, I know that I'm not capable of pushing and pulling those sleds fast enough to be competitive. I might be able to run a bit quicker, but it doesn't make a difference. I know that in an open, I can keep it just borderline where before I get that feeling in my legs where I'm going above my threshold. If I can keep it on that line, I can attack all of the stations pretty well, and I can get that good balance. So there's very rare now that I'll be first in any station overall. In Stockholm, I was first on the wall balls for the first time ever. But that's because I managed my effort before I got to the wall balls to be able to finish them unbroken and fast. And the boy who finished second ran faster than me in the runs, but then he took an extra minute on the wall balls. So that's not the aim of the game. Is to get from A to B as fast as possible, not the chips along the way being as quick. So I preach pacing, and I usually tell people that what they've done before and they felt comfortable running, they were probably still running 10 seconds a K too fast. And if you slow it down, you'll hit the stations harder and you'll come out feeling better and you'll finish stronger in the back end. So people need to consider how fast they're running. I know it's predominantly a running race, but it's a measured running race. You don't see people in 5Ks, 10Ks, half marathons and marathons going off at the start as fast as possible, maybe in a cross country, different type of race, but they'll run as fast as they can for a K, break out so they get a good position and then settle in. And nobody does that in Hyrox. They go out hard, or, all right, not everybody. There's plenty of people, and most of the elites are really good at pacing, but the masses are going out really, really hard, hitting the ski and the sled and saying, oh, these sleds are really, really heavy. They're not. Your heart rate's like 90% of max already, or 95% of max. Everything's going to feel heavy. You could push a shopping cart, it'd be heavy. But I recently started doing some lactate testing on myself and couldn't believe how high it gets on the ski. But mental. Like even at really low paces, I couldn't ski slow enough to keep my lactate levels below 2 millimole, which 2 millimole when I'm running is probably like 335, 340 base, and I was skiing 210. So like per 500. So if you go out really hard, you get your heart rate up, you build up some lactate, you get into the ski, and then because you're using smaller muscle groups in your upper body and they're more predominantly fast twitch, your lactate still goes through the roof. Then you start to build fatigue. You might feel all right on the next run, but by the time you get to the sled, you're cooked because you've only got 3 minutes, 4 minutes, 5 minutes, whatever, to clear that out while still trying to maintain a high heart rate. Your body can't do it. So a slower, steadier start to the race pays serious dividends in the back end. unless you're a mutant, and there are some out there.
All right, so let's dig into that a little bit more. So pacing. So we're talking about, a lot of people will focus on timing when they're looking at the run-ins, the runs, etc. Are we saying that for pacing, we're better going off heart rate?
So it's difficult because everyone's slightly different. I've been doing this for 10 years, so I know where my kind of limits and my thresholds are. So I've tried to work it out, and everyone is different. The courses are all slightly different. So I do try and get it, and the people that I coach, I predominantly give them a window to run each lap rather than each K. So I do some nerdy maths with however many laps it's going to be for the 8K, and then try and work it out from my experience of what the RoxZone is going to be, which isn't always easy. But if it's the same course as last year, we can kind of get a little feel for it. And then give them a lap time and a window of like 5 to 10 seconds to try and keep the laps in that. And it works really well. But it's also me knowing that person, and I always some of the women are a little bit easier than the men. They kind of go, yeah, that makes sense. Thanks for the direction. And the bloke's like, what if I just push it another 5 or 10 seconds? I'm like, yeah, push it. And that 5 or 10 seconds could be just enough to push you over your limit so that the back end's horrible. Chill out and let's try and hit these numbers, and we can start thinking about the race starting after burpees rather than starting from go. You can really start to make an impact after that and pick up numbers. And the RoxFit app makes this really good because you can see where you position on each station and each run, and it gives you a nice graph. So if your graph starts down low and comes up and it finishes, nice and high in your age group, cool. If it starts high and comes down, you know you've made a mess of it.
I think that's mine.
A lot of people, and a lot
of mine's like, whew.
Yeah, where you think that you're first, second on the first couple of runs, and then 8th, 9th, wherever in the back end. But it's hard for me to tell you now. What should I? If you said to me, Aaron, what should my pace be, without knowing you, I would say slower than you think it is. And I had a look at your splits. I reckon if you probably ran the first 3 or 4 runs 10 to 15 seconds slower, and you don't have a big variation in your splits as well. I like to see like 10 to 20 seconds variation. It's good. And yours are pretty close there. But I reckon if you ran your first couple of runs more to that 20 seconds.
Was this the
slower,
Birmingham one?
Yeah, I think it was the Birmingham one. Yeah. I think if you did that a little bit slower, then your stations would have been a bit quicker. But I'm going to say that Birmingham was a bit of an anomaly, but your run splits are pretty sweet.
That was actually the slowest I've started ever.
Really?
Because I did 4:36. I think it was a slightly longer run.
So
anyways.
It was a long one, the first one, yeah.
At the start.
No, it was very long. The first one was very long, I think. But yeah.
Yeah.
Do you drink a lot of water? What are you doing it?
I do.
Yeah.
Where you notice it in the RoxZone?
Yeah, definitely. Because the RoxZone was pretty big in Birmingham, but that's probably you've probably lost a minute in your RoxZone there.
Yeah, I think that's actually something I'm trying. So I've always had this fear of cramp because I've struggled with it all my life. In races, running or whatever. And I have been working on that, like trying to improve my, my carbs and stuff beforehand. I've actually happened upon, because I was all about electrolytes, and then I realized that actually I feel like carb drinks are probably better because it seems to, I guess you piss less as well. It seems to like soak it up a bit more. But I am actually trying now to stop trying to do training sessions without water, just to get myself used to it, not having to go to the thingy all the time, the water station. I mean, I'm not going. Yeah, I'm probably going most laps because I've got that
10 seconds there each time, maybe 5
Yeah.
to 10 seconds. I don't go at all, or maybe once.
How do you feel about cramp?
So, I've suffered from it before, and I don't. Most of the research is pretty ambiguous on whether it is electrolyte balance or whether it's a model of fatigue and because you've overexerted your muscles that weren't ready for what you were putting on them. So pacing. So yeah, it's hard. Like some people just suffer from it more than others. I haven't. I've had it on the lunges once, but like a twing before, not nothing fully season up. So it's difficult. People do get it, and it's hard to manage. But usually, it's lack of conditioning or overreaching in a race, or you're just predisposed to it, which sucks.
Yeah. There's so many different things, and like you say, you know, you don't know my history as well, and I think and there's different types of cramps, right? You know, you've got one-sided, you know, which could be something to do with that particular muscle. Like for instance, I used to get it in my right calf, and then the girl who does my deep tissue, she was like, "Oh, you got a little tear here."
Protective,
Didn't know
yeah.
I had it, you know, and I must have tore it years ago. So that's one thing. So I always try and look at, but then if I cramp up like symmetrically on both legs, then I think, okay, something systemic probably going on here, because the likelihood of it being even if it was muscular, you
Yeah,
know.
we randomly. So on the physios I work with here, we were talking about it on Tuesday, and so he works for a GAA club when he's not working here, and they've started using mustard, and so like actually taking mustard when he starts to cramp up, and they've done it to this one lad now that's notorious for cramping, and twice they've used the mustard and it's gone. So saying about that CNS thing and whether it's systemic and whether it's just flicking your central nervous system back into working properly, weird. But there's some research on mustard and some other sour things as well, I think.
Oh wow.
But I don't know if I'd want to be like just going into the war boars and gobbing a mouthful of mustard. Like,
I made a joke to Zara Piergiani the other day because I did this overrated, underrated section with her, and she was talking about, and then she messaged me afterwards because she couldn't remember one of them, and she said, I think it was overrated food was brown sauce, and then I was like, I'm not going to see you like run around a Hyrox with a brown sauce energy gel, and then it just made me think then if I had a
McDonald's
little mustard
mustard.
packet in you do realize that's probably going to happen now. The amount of things I've had on me, like I'd like that Birmingham, I had a banana down my sock because I was so terrified of this cramp, and you end up with these coping mechanisms or coping strategies that work, but then you go, like you say, you go, well, was it the banana that I had at 30 minutes, or was it just because my training was better? And you can see how, you know, it's like athletes, footballs and stuff. They have all these like things that what do they call it, rituals,
Hmm.
and that's just another ritual, isn't it? Almost like oh, I've got to have this on me. I've got to have all these gels. I've got to have, yeah, because the idea of the thought of cramping up mid race is just terrifying.
Yeah, because your race is over then, isn't it? And all that training seems to be like for nothing. But
Yeah,
it's another learning experience, I suppose.
it's
But
interesting what you were saying about that kind of nervous system reset or whatever, because I have noticed if I keep my mind calm, I can kind of seem to realign, if that makes sense. I've done it like I felt it come in, and if I kind of just relax and try and like almost like breathe into it in my mind, and then it seems to go away. So there are, you know, some things that can work, and
yeah,
who knows how much of it is just mental.
we're complicated beings, like so that it's all joined together. Like so, what your mind believes, your body will probably do. It's a lot to do with when we're talking about pain and how pain and the body and the mind control and manage pain and feel it are well, it's mind-boggling. Like we you know, there's still so much we don't know about how our body does so many things. Even
Mm,
though there's plenty of research to suggest how we might do it, there's still never any conclusive things because that's not how science really works, is it? So
no.
whether if it works, don't stop doing it because it could be for that reason. I think that a lot of recovery tools don't have the science to say that they do anything. but people believe they do something. So if you believe it works, even though there's no physiological benefit, the psychological part, is just as good. There's plenty of studies to show that people sticking placebo into people versus the normal drug, the outcomes are almost the same. So what if you can trick your mind into doing stuff that means you don't have to do other things, then fair enough. It can work.
Let's just quickly go back to pacing for just to finish up on that point. So what we say is you want to be sub threshold throughout the race. If let's say if you've got your lactate done, you know exactly what it is using a heart rate strap. Is that like a hard rule for you?
So I operate at two different levels for me. Like in the open, I can operate on or just above that threshold because I can manage the running and the stations. So I generally will come out of a station above threshold and will take the first lap to get back to my on that threshold border. Whereas on the pro, I'll try and bring it even lower so that I can be more recovered to get into the next station, especially the sleds, definitely the wall balls. So in Maastricht, my race wasn't going great, but for some reason at the minute in training, my lunges have been absolutely amazing. Like compared to what they were, like with the 30 kilos, I've basically been strolling up and down. I got to them in Maastricht, and I went to do the first lunge. I was like, brilliant, my legs don't work. So it was the slowest I'd ever done the lunges in a pro race. But then I went back into the run and I just chilled. And I went into the wall balls, and they were the fastest I've ever done a wall balls by miles. I did them in 3 sets, 70 and 215s, and I probably could have done a bit more, but I'm always cautious with the pro that doing a couple more could send me over the edge that I don't need. So it's a weird balancing act, but on a pro, I bring it sub threshold. In an open, I can flirt with that line of just getting it go up, and I can let it go up and come back down again and still be running at a decent enough pace, like 330s or whatever, 325s. Whereas with a pro, probably because I'm not as big and as strong, so I preach don't be strong, but like it's still a fitness thing because I can't get this stuff moving, and that's probably for everybody because it's a different race. If you are able to cope with that, and I'm a terrible anaerobic athlete. Like I don't like training it. I don't want to train it. Like I don't think consistency is my super weapon. So I've had 2 days off last year. One was for illness, and the other one was because I wanted to day off because I'd raced twice the day before. So 2 days off. The year before, probably I don't have
total rest days.
Yeah, as in like 2 days off. So I trained for 363 days. Or was it a leap year? Which one's a leap year? This one or last year?
Wow, I don't know.
But yeah, and I can do that year in and year out because I'm not redlining all the time, because I'm tapering my training. Like if I feel tired, I won't do a session. I'll go for a jog, and it'll be a zone 1 jog. But I've managed to maintain probably average of 75 to 80k a week quite easily for the last 3 years since I stopped running properly, along with 5, sometimes 6 gym sessions, which might be ergs or it might be strength or Hyrox type stuff. So I don't train a massive amount, like 10 to 12 hours a week, but I've got a life around that as well, and I don't want to just spend all my time training. So we have a bit of a deal at home where I only train once on a weekend in the mornings, and that's probably, I just do 2 runs, and that's probably before they get out of bed. Right. And then everything else I do at lunchtime at work or before they get out of bed in the morning, or just as they're getting out of bed. So I can still do all my bits and pieces.
So when you're
that's completely not what you asked.
No, I don't know. It's interesting. So when you're doing intervals, do you do intervals?
Threshold intervals, just.
Yeah, so you're just doing threshold rather than you're not doing like VO2 max intervals. You're not doing that high.
I actually talked about this yesterday, right? And now that I do less volume and I'm a masters athlete, it sounds horrible, but I'm nearly 40. I'm months off 40. I probably should do some faster stuff, but I stick to threshold and strides, and that's it, because I know that I can manage them without getting injured. I know if I start doing 5 by 3 minutes at 3-minute K pace with 3 minutes rest. One, I'll get really bored in the 3 minutes rest, and two, I will probably get injured trying to run that fast, or just get really, really bored of doing it. It's horrible. Like, and I don't want to do it. Like, I don't think the return on investment is worth it, because the chances of getting injured are like exponential after. If I stay below my lactate threshold or just below that line, which now I can test all the time, which is handy, but I kind of know what my heart rate was anyway. I can do them 3 times a week. I don't, but I could. Whereas if I did a VO2 max session, I'd need the rest of the day off. Whereas now I do a running session. And so Wednesday, for example, I did 6 by 5 minutes with 75 seconds rest in the morning. I think I averaged 325 per kilometer pace. So not even like hammering it. Like, they all felt smooth. My max heart rate was only 163. Then I came back in at lunchtime and I did some sled work. And then we did a 30-minute AMRAP. And I kept the AMRAP sub threshold as well. So I didn't go above 160, mainly because after about the second round, I could barely lift my arms because it was ski, burpees, and wall balls. So I was walking around like T-Rex. But like, and keeping that balance means that I can just keep training. And consistency is the killer in it, or is the king in this. Like, doing the work after work after work, not doing big blocks and then having time off because you're injured or burnt out, and then going back to it. The peaks and troughs are not what you want. You want to get up and just be on a real slow trajectory of building over time, and you will get better. But it's not sexy. Like, me running 5-minute Ks, I even like slower than 5-minute Ks, which is 2 minutes per kilometer slower than my 5K pace probably. And I'll run that 6 times a week, no problem. Put a podcast in, go for a bimbo, and mince around doing that. And then it doesn't bother me in the slightest. Like, I don't be out there sending runs and trying to run 4-minute Ks every run. Like, I could, but it's horrible. I hate that. Like, zone 2, zone 3 for me is grim. Like, you're really working hard and you're not recovering enough to be able to do the next session. So our Sunday, Tuesday, Thursday, like, if you want to be in zone 1, if you want to go for a walk, I'm down with that. Like, if you get to a hill and your heart rate goes up and you have to walk up it. I think Tim Cousins, what does he call it? JFW. So just walk. You can guess the effort. Do you know what I mean? So if it gets too difficult and your heart rate's going up, just walk up a hill or take a walking break. You're still going to get aerobic gains from it. You're going to recover, be able to go into the next session the next day. If you send that run and you go in the ski erg or the rower later on in that day, whatever, and you're in zone 4, you aren't going to be able to do the quality the next day. And the quality is where the gains are made. The rest of it's just filler to get you there. But you don't need to be training zone 5. Sometimes you can do it, but I won't do it in running. I'll do it in something that's not going to be high impact. So whether that be a ski erg session, which is really easy for me because I've got one in my garage, or wall balls. Wall balls will be the only time I really get into zone 5, because if you get to like 50, 60 unbroken reps with a 9 or a 12, your heart rate's above max. I don't know how it does it. They send me to a different place, but that and then plenty of rest.
Yeah. What you mentioned their stride outs.
Mm-hmm.
So they're like a bit like a kind of like a sprint. Like, explain what stride out is.
So usually like 20 to 30 seconds or about 100 meters if you're on a track, and it's not go, accelerate as fast, go and sprint as fast as you can. Use the 100 meters or the 20, 30 seconds to accelerate up to a comfortably fast pace. So like, if you've a running background, like a mile pace, so 5 to 6 seconds per K faster than 5K pace, and just get up and run smooth, run tall. Smooth is fast, so you're not sprinting, arms all over the place, Phoebe Buffet style through Central Park. Just try and get up, hips forward, slight forward lean, get the arms pumping, and just look smooth. Accelerate for 20, 30 meters, stay at that that nice speed for 50, 60 meters, then deaccelerate for 20, 30 meters turn around, walk back to the start, do 6 to 8, or start with 4, build up with 6 to 8. You know, it probably adds 5-10 minutes to your session. But if you're doing a 40-minute run or a 50-minute run, just stop at 40 minutes and do them outside your house or wherever's convenient. Probably not in the middle of the road, but.
So it's like it's more like a neural connection thing, that right?
Yeah, that building up that pathway of nice smooth running, and it's not that strenuous. And if it is strenuous and you feel like you're sprinting and your eyeballs are popping out, you're not doing strides, you're doing sprints. And there's a place for them, but I don't think there's a place for them for 90% of the people doing this type of stuff.
Cool. What about let's look at like some individual stations specifically, and training individual stations, things like wall balls, lunges that we've talked about a little bit. So firstly, you said there we were talking about zone 5. If you do a shitload of wall balls in training, you'll get into zone 5. How should we be looking at, let's say wall balls is your weakness, how should we be looking at training them, and how hard should we go on that? Like, how hard should we try go unbroken?
Yeah, cool. Now, I get this a lot, and a lot of people think that they should just be going out and doing a max set as many times as possible. So for me, it's it's like a stride again, that neuro patterning. So you want to get better at the movement, you want to get stronger at the movement, and then you want to be able to build your capacity for that movement. So when I started doing them 5 days a week, basically, but I would do it in different ways. So even like a normal strength way of doing it. So I'd do a heavier ball, and I'll use a 12 quite a lot now. And I started off with like 10 to 15 reps with a minute rest, do 4 to 6 sets of those. Then like the next session, if it wasn't the next, so Monday, Wednesday, Friday are our training sessions now. So I don't do them on Tuesday, Thursday anymore, because I've got proficient enough at them that 3 times a week doing 150 to 200 is enough. So like on Monday, I did an EMOM with them. So with the 12, I did 15 reps every minute for 10 minutes. There's 150 done. And that kept my heart rate at like in the 140s, which is cool. Then on Wednesday, we did the AMRAP, where I was doing sets of 30 with a 9, but after the burpees. So I was already pre-fatigued and then doing 30s. And the goal was just to try and go unbroken and keep nice reps. And then today we've, I tell you what I'll never do is wall balls into a run. If you want to ruin your session, do that. Do a session that's like run wall ball without any rest. The runs go down like I've never seen anything like it. But yeah, if I'm doing a strength session or trying to do a bit of capacity work, I'll get myself or the other people I coach to do maybe 2 minutes of wall balls with like 2 minutes rest. 4 times. So you could end up usually then we'll do the lighter ball or the competition ball that you're with. So smaller sets, heavier ball, and you'll build up that way. And then bigger, higher capacity stuff, competition ball for longer sets, but with bigger rest periods. And then you'll end up with, so for me, I could do probably 4 by 2 minutes with wall balls with 2 minutes recovery, and in that I would end up getting 240 wall balls, 4 sets of 60. So it's a lot of wall balls, but it's actually only 8 minutes of work, and I've been in a wall ball station nearly 8 minutes before doing 100. So
yeah. And how should someone like assess how many they should be doing? Is it 5 wall balls in reserve or something like that? Any sort of guidelines on?
Yeah, definitely wall balls are like stopping short of complete failure, because this takes too long to recover from. It is another feeling thing, and doing these big sets as well. So like on some workouts, we'll do like an hour long AMRAP, and then it'll be 100 wall balls for time. So you'll jump off the treadmill or come in from your run or whatever the last station is, and you'll just go for 100 time. And then we try and build up the feeling of knowing how 100 is going to feel at the end of a workout. So whether you just need a plan of how you can do it from manage it. More race experience works with this, because 100 wall balls at the end of a training session versus at the end of a Hyrox aren't the same thing. The ball doubles in the race in weight. So I think trying to feel your way through, that's definitely the way to do it. So if you know that in training you can only do 5 sets of 20 to get to your 100, I would probably say start at 15s to 16s in the race, because if the 20 might feel decent, but the next 20 aren't going to.
You're right. It totally does feel basically double weight, doesn't it?
It's very strange.
It's not far off double.
Yeah.
When you're, is this a 6?
Stop it. Yeah, it's horrible. So I think it's just learning again through racing and through training, and just getting that feeling of how good you are. Because I can do 100 even before my first pro race. I think I could do 100 unbroken with a 9. When I got there on race day, I got to 20 and I'm pretty sure I died inside. Like, it just turns into 3s or 4s, whatever it is you can do to get it up. And then you're so fatigued, you end up doing 120 or 130 because you're getting so many no reps. So drill the pattern, make sure you can't get it wrong. Start doing wall balls with your eyes closed so you can hit the target just by feel.
That's a good one.
Yeah, but throw it with your eyes closed. Don't catch it with your eyes closed because you break your nose.
Yeah, Birmingham was a terrible wall ball performance for me. I literally ate the ball like 3 times.
Yeah, it happens to me all the time.
I didn't have a pole in front of me. I wasn't prepared for that, and it was totally. I said I felt like I was pissing out of an airplane, just like, like I just couldn't hit the target. I was just kind of like, it was crazy. But eyes closed wall balls, interesting.
Just more. I don't know if I'd try it. Like for most people, but I can close my eyes and I can hit the target almost every time now, because I've done that many that I haven't got no repped in wall balls for a pretty long time now, because once again, in fact, this time last year in Vienna, I ended up doing like 120, 125 wall balls, and I lost the European Championships by like 15 seconds because I had to do so many wall balls because there were no reps. And I'm just not having that again. So just drill them, drill, like you would have anything. Like David Beckham in his back garden doing 2,000 kiki uppies. You know what I mean? Do the skill, do the drill. That is what it is. I can understand where people say you need to get stronger and you're squatting short, but it's 9 kilos or 6 kilos or 4 kilo wall ball. It's not heavy. It's a fitness thing and a technique thing. So if you don't have the mobility, you need to work on that first. But if you've got the mobility and the capability to throw it to the wall, with getting the range, then you just need to be drilling them so that you can't get them wrong and that your body's used to it.
It's interesting and backs up exactly what we were talking about. And in and around Birmingham, after I had that really terrible wall ball performance, I'd actually started doing a thing just in the morning, because I don't normally train in the mornings, but I'd basically just to like start my day, I'd literally just stand there with my hands in the air and do squats, and I would just every day while I'm making my coffee, I'd just see how many I could do. I started at like 40, then I went to 50, then ended up getting to like 100 one day, a few weeks after Birmingham. And then I did a training session and I thought, I'll just see how many I can do. And I did 100 unbroken in training for the first time, which before that I'd only done 60, I think. And this is exactly what we're saying. It was like, because I wasn't even doing the weighted, but it was just because my neural pathways, I'm just used to that feeling. I knew what it felt like to just be constantly, pushing up and driving up. And that was a real eye opening for me, and it just makes me think now. So much of this is neural. We talk, everyone talks about like strength and muscle size and all the other, but it seems to me like all of it is pretty much neural.
Yeah, well, every motor unit's made up of a nerve and a muscle. So like you have to be able to fire in that pattern, and it's the same with like any muscle memory is the thing, but it's the pattern. So it's the same with go back to playing any instrument. Like those people aren't thinking about what their hands are doing because that just wastes energy. They're feeling their way through it because they've built up that muscle memory and that patterning, and of doing whatever they're doing with their hands. The same with any other sport. When you watch people play football, they're not thinking, right, I need to get the ball with my feet and then control it and pass it or whatever. Like, and the same with this, like conversions or penalty kicks in rugby. Like if you look at some of the real, like Johnny Wilkinson and Owen Farrell, they've got like, and Dan Bigger didn't even know that he had this weird like twitching thing when he was lining up to kick it, but it was so ingrained in him that he did it every time he went to kick the ball, and they do follow the same pattern every time, move backwards, and it's ingrained that they can do it from anywhere on the pitch. They're not thinking about what they're doing it. If you're thinking, right, I need to squat, now I need to breathe, now I need to throw, you aren't going to be fast. If you keep doing it, you're not having to worry about when you're breathing, you're not worrying about when you're throwing it. You'll release the ball at the same point every time. You'll squat down to the same depth, I hope, if you programmed it. So and when you can feel it, when you're not hitting that depth, because it won't feel right. It'll feel different, and so you'll know that something's not right. You just need to ingrain it into you. And I know we keep going on. The warballs is the easiest one to do because the rest is the only one that's really any skill to it. Like the ergs, you need some kind of technique, but you can hustle your way through it.
Yeah.
The sled pull, you also need the technique. So the same, you need to drill that movement so that your body becomes second nature, and then you'll improve, and then you can build the capacity to do more and more of it.
Yeah, I play guitar. Well, I certainly played a lot of guitar when I was younger, and I would always say that like I'd be sat in science, and I'd be practicing something in my head, like under the table, just with my fingers, and I'd get home and I could play it better.
Yeah.
I didn't do very well in science, but my guitar skills were excellent. But it's just the same thing. Like it's that neural. So yeah, maybe I should start like my mind might start wandering to doing wall balls while I'm in work meetings or something.
You'd be squatting. Like this F1 drivers do it, right? So they learn the course and they close the course and they drive their course in their head before they do it. They build up that pattern. So corner, talk them. Same with skiers. If you watch alpine skiers or at the top of the thing, they'll be there and they'll be counting their way through the turns and remembering. So when they do their practice run, they'll be like, right, that's however far to that turn, it's a big right hander into banana or whatever, and they'll work through their turns in their head before they even get to it. That connection with the mind and the body is paramount. It's key in sport and everything really.
And what about, we were talking there specifically about wall balls. And what about something like lunges? How often should you be going heavier? Let's say you're training for open. How often should you be training with 30 all the time to get you used to it?
I think there's a balance again. Yeah, a balance again with do shorter or smaller sets that you would in a normal strength thing, smaller sets with a slightly bigger rest with a heavier bag, even going up to the barbell and doing 40, 50 kilos if you can manage that for smaller sets, and then doing like race pace type stuff in your Hyrox workout. So you pick up the 20 kilo bag and you try and maintain the pace you will in the race, and finding the technique that works best for you as well, because, there's the Hyrox is better suited for taller athletes, like the ergs taller, even the sleds taller, maybe not so much warbles, but the lunges, yeah. I know you've got to come up more, but you can get a longer length stride. Finding out whether you need to do touch and go or whether you can step through or whether you need to stand up at the top and take a breath, and whatever you can maintain for your capacity to keep going. So working out and training what works best for you and what feels best, whether it's off feeling or heart rate. Lunges is a weird one. My heart rate comes right down on the lunges, but my capacity to keep going with the 20 is fine. With the 30, depending on where I am in the race, it's a 50% increase, right? So though it doesn't sound like a lot, it's a lot extra weight and not far off half.
It's much more isolated, isn't it?
Yeah. So it's just finding the balance and doing bits and pieces from everywhere. And like you can do some strength stuff with that, but it's still skill based, because you need to have good balance and style of striding through is. So I do like a small touch before my feet come together, and it allows me to step a little bit further. But I've only found that out through practice in training. If I stand and stepping right through burns out my groin, but I also can't go as far. So whereas if I just random numbers here, but if I do a step through, I might only get 90 centimeters on that one lunge. Whereas if I do a touch behind me, I might get 110 centimeters, which is going to cut off, 8, 9, 10 lunges on my 100 meters maybe. So it might be slightly slower turnover, but it might be slightly faster overall and save my legs for the last run and for the wall balls. So it's a balancing act. And this whole thing the whole race is a juggling. It's a recipe for like getting from A to B to the, as fast as you can. And everybody needs to put their different ingredients in to get the different results. So that's the fun of the race, right? Of the sport, is that everyone's slightly different and everyone needs to attack it in a slightly different way. But you need to find out what works for you and what you can manage, because you could be training for 20 hours a week versus my 10, but it depends on what you put into those 20 hours or those 10 hours. And it depends where your starting point is, depends on where you're going to go. It also, unfortunately, depends on your parents and your genetics. So some of us just weren't born, 6'2" and 100 kilos worth of meat like Hunter. Well, he wasn't born like that, but he's in that kind of shape, and with a VO2 max of probably 75. General public are in the 40s to 50s, and they're never going to be able to maintain that. So it's finding that balancing act and then getting your balancing act for you correct.
How do you assess, I know we'll come back to strength quite a lot in this, but how do you assess if someone's got, let's say, lunges? How do we know if it's a strength or a muscular endurance problem?
So it's tricky because it's quite hard to test 1 rep max for a walking lunge. You could do it for a split squat. So we do it. I do test split squat, and then we train split squat depending on what part of the season it's in. But generally, it depends on their fall off after it as well. So if people were really struggling to do that last run as well, it's probably a strength endurance thing. But you can look at the times and see if you are, say, in that top 20% on all the other stations, and then you're, in the bottom half on the lunges, and then you can pick up again for the wall balls. It's probably a technique or a capacity thing rather than a strength thing. I don't think there's any definitive answer on, because some people just really struggle with them. Like, I think it's a tricky exercise in a really perfect place in the race for it to be even trickier.
Yeah.
So it's like just before, like when you're really tired, you've ran 7K and done a load of other stuff, and then you've got a real neuromuscular and leggy exercise coming after that's not really strength. But if you've got burnt out legs, then you're knackered. But I think if you're taking, if we'd split down the stations and broke them into even blocks, if your lunges are really big block of that, if you're predominantly taking like 4 minutes from most of the other stations and your lunges are 6-7 minutes, it's going to be a blend of both, probably strength and muscular endurance, but also some probably technique, and just you need to do more lunges.
Yeah. And have you got any sort of minimum numbers when if you onboard a new athlete, and you do like a testing week, is there any like minimum numbers, any sort of like red lines that you look for?
To be fair, like most of it, I can kind of tell how well they're going to get on off their running capacity. So like, because I can work with the strength stuff, we can build, like I said, I don't think it's that important. We can build it up in a blend. But if, I say if you're running over like 30 minutes for a 5K, then we're really going to look at trying to get that down, because that's 6 minutes per K, So you're probably going to be running 6:30 to 7 minutes in a Hyrox, and there's not going to be much difference between your top end and your bottom end. So we really want to raise the floor with that rather than the ceiling. So we want to bring you up so that you can hold a closer to that 6 minutes and 5K pace, because you aren't going to have the aerobic capacity throughout that whole thing. And I think there are some lines there and times and abilities that you can kind of go, right, if someone says to me, I'm a 23-minute 5K and I want to break 60 minutes for an open race, I'm probably going to say, listen, you ain't going to be able to do that yet. You need to get that time down before you can even start thinking about it, because else you're going to be running so close to your capacity that you aren't going to be able to maintain it. So I don't know if that answers your question. I don't know, like from a strength point of view, not really. Like I can deal with all of it from a strength, because it's muscular endurance, majority of it. Like when I first started doing it, I used to test all of the stations. I don't so much anymore, because I don't think it really tells me anything in isolation. So
Yeah.
But the running does.
Yeah. Yeah. Do you do like any sort of like PFT test? Like, do you have a test, or are you saying like are you just doing running now?
So I did. I thought the PFT was decent, but then I realised that it's not endurance enough. There's not. It's not enough capacity in it. There's not enough length. It's too short. So like, I don't think that the rule that they came up with for the times for the PFT for what event to enter are really based on anything other than a finger in the air, and they've gone, oh, just do that, because everyone's different. I could get completely hammered by people on a PFT and beat them over a Hyrox, no problem, probably, because it's really that high end. It's like a 5K. It's not, whereas a Hyrox is more like a half marathon, I'd say. It needs to be paced like that.
Yeah, for sure. Okay, a little bit of a selfish section. So we talked a little bit about this before. So I sent you my my last solo results. So question is, if you had 3 years to get me sub 60, what would you do? And I'll give you a little bit of background. So kind of like a little bit of running in my 20s. Probably I have a knee injury. So I've got torn meniscus on my right hand side, so I have to manage that. So a little bit of actually after Birmingham, I was like, right, I've got a doubles race coming up with a guy who's very fast and very light. So I was like, right, I'm just going to go all in on running. I'm going to take a little bit of time off Hyrox per se, but I'm going to do lots of intervals. I'm going to get faster. So during November, I broke my 5K record. I got it at 18:27, fastest I've ever been in my life. Did a 10K, 39:20, fastest I've ever done a 10K in my life. But stopped doing any of the strength work that I need to look after my meniscus. And then all of a sudden, after the 10K, I'd pushed that way too hard, started getting swelling in my knee. And then I spent 4 weeks on the build up to Manchester, basically not running, doing all erg stuff. So there you go. So there's a little bit of background.
You can run fast enough to break 60 already, probably. So looking at your station splits, it is all back end. Yeah, that I would be. So farmer's carry, really good, top 0 points. But lunges, war balls, burpees. Yeah, like you've managed the first half actually pretty well, up until the burpees. But burpees are just minging. Like, but you, 1, 2, 3. Yeah, you could make it all up on. You could probably make most of it up in not that long on 3 stations. To be fair, it would be a lot of muscular endurance stuff, because you can run fast enough. I would say slow down slightly, stop messing about in a RoxZone, or carry a water bottle with you in a little bum bag or something like your Paleo dude does, or Ryland, because if the elites are doing it, why you? Because you've already got a 3 minute then, like from stopping from water. I'd say pick a better
3
course.
minutes from water stations, you reckon?
No, a minute from
Oh,
water
I
station.
wasted 3.
Nah, 3 or 4 minutes just off the last 2 stations. So I would say pick a better course because there's probably 2 minutes. Easy enough.
Glasgow's my next one in 4 weeks.
Probably not that one, but to go sub 70, I think you know, depending on how your training's gone, it depends on how much time you've got to train. So, but I would say you probably just need to slow your runs down slightly. Although these are decent, I'm saying that, but I would have liked you to finish stronger with those kind of splits. So you could have just slowed down. Say if you'd slowed down 6 to 7 seconds a lap on the runs, you could have saved 3 minutes in the lunges and the wall balls potentially. But it's hard to know. Like more muscular endurance. The bottom line is you need to do more lunges, more wall balls, more burpees. More.
Yeah, because the aerobic side, because if you look at my lunges, even though I struggled, then you look at my last run.
It's like decent.
I was fine. I felt fine. But then just totally blew up on the wall balls.
And that, I don't know if Birmingham did it, but they usually include the RoxZone in the last run as well. So like it's a 4:15 the last run. So that could have been a 4:05 if they included the RoxZone. They do. Sometimes they do, sometimes they don't. But it's not a blow up. You're not dead. You just either you're not used to being uncomfortable with that kind of movement. So when it starts to burn, you slow down because it's easier to slow down.
It wasn't. I don't think it was that. Literally, I just fell apart. Like everything, my brain went. Like I just kept on. The ball hecked up and hit me in the face. I'd totally somehow just.
And I totally get that. I've been there. But those are your like more muscular endurance. So you're 1413th on the sandbag lunges, whereas you're 10th on the farmer's carry. In the hundreds on a couple of them. So there's you definitely have the speed and the aerobic capacity already to do this race in a much faster time. You just need to build up some more muscular endurance and probably more capacity of racing like this as well. So I imagine if you'd raced 2 weeks later after this, you would have probably gone faster again, just through knowing how to manage it. And now it's been 4 months since you last raced a solo, right? Yeah, you probably totally forgotten. You think you know how it felt. You probably don't really know.
No, I'm in a terrible place because I did relay and doubles at Manchester. Like 3 weeks ago?
Yeah.
And then I got the flu, like really bad flu. So my training is just like I did an erg session last night, and it was I was in a massive mood just because I just feel nowhere near. What's weird is because I've been doing because I was doing doubles, I was doing a lot of like interval-y ergs. So my ergs actually been really strong. So like for them to just fall off, my running's fine, but for some reason it's ergs. What is it about? That's a good question. What is it about the ergs that they seem to feel like they drop off more, even more than the sled push?
Yeah, I think the ski erg's very technique based, but like it's also like quite a lot. I know you're that hip drive. It's still quite a lot of upper body like movement. So your arms and your shoulders, your lats and your chest are all engaged to do it, and they're not. You don't walk around on your hands unless you're a CrossFitter all the time. You know what I mean? So you are always using your legs and stuff, whereas you're not always using your arms. So if you're running, that running's crossing over to other things, but not so much the upper body stuff. So I think rowing, I don't do a lot of rowing because I can that kind of stays with the skiing. But the skiing, if I went through a phase of doing about 35k a week on the ski erg because my second easy session would just be a straight up 10k on the ski erg, watching something on my phone or my iPad, and it just feels so much smoother. It's that ingraining the muscle pattern, the movement pattern again, like because it's a weird thing. No, you don't. There's not something you do in any other part of your life, is it?
Yeah.
That skiing movement. So I think if you aren't doing it, it drops off because of that efficiency. And you probably, if you added up all the ski erg kilometers you've done in your life, it's probably not that many. And it's a weird movement. So nothing else really crosses over to it. Even being what really helps is being heavy and being really tall. So if you could buy that, then you'd be all right. But being, I don't know how tall you are, but if you're 5'9", 5'10", then and you're only weighing 70 kilos, you've got to go real fast to try and get that power.
That's what's annoying, actually, because my diet's gone to shit, and I'm probably pushing 80 kilos at the moment, but it's still not helping.
Maybe you start twerking on it and slut dropping into it so you can get some of that weight behind it.
Do you know, it's interesting. I'd never thought about, ski erg, row. They are kind of like the only uppery ones. I mean, obviously there's wall balls, but that's probably more lower, isn't it?
Yeah, if you're driving properly and popping your hips, you shouldn't be too much arms. You start using your arms because your legs are really tired, but then they burn out really fast. And you increase, using more arms increases more lactate again. The same, farmers carry, you're only there for a minute and a half, whatever, really grinding and just grit your teeth and run. But it's an isometric movement, so you're locked in and holding, so it's not too fatiguing. On the sled pull, you don't really want to be using too much arms. If you do arm over arm, you're insane. And you can't not pro anyway. So you want to just, you're probably right. Yeah, it's real easy to overcook the ergs, I think. If you can really mess up your race. You can really mess up your race on the ski erg by going out too hot. Yeah, and you feel all right, and it's only a K, but you pay for it later on. I don't care what anyone says. You don't win the race on a ski erg. Ronkovic may, but where did Ronk come from? Swimming 80K a week for years on end. The bloke's upper body is insane. His ability to deal with lactic and upper body capacity is massive. But he also drops off as well. I watched him race in Stockholm, and he dominates to the sleds and then holds on. It's probably not. He could probably go faster if he controlled the front end of his race better. I'm only telling the world champ how to do his job, but I'd still think he could probably go faster. If you look at Hunter now and how he's training, and how his coaches, they've gone back to pacing, and he's gone to heart rate as well, and all his sims in his home gym have been on heart rate, and then he went into the last race and didn't take his heart rate monitor. I think he probably, if he had, he would have probably not blown up on the warballs, but he's also way better than I am, so I don't know, But from an outside perspective, it's still a pacing thing. He knows it's a pacing thing. He knows that there's better ways of doing this, and he got a shock in the world champs by being beaten by trying to win it again on the sleds, which he didn't need to do. It's probably the first time he's ever put the kettlebells down because he went out too hot, and he admits it. So, I don't know. It's a tricky one.
What about how many sims do you think we should be doing? And let's say we can only manage 3 races a year because of finances or whatever, time off work. How many sims?
Almost all of my Friday sessions they're not sims, but they go through movements that I'm weaker on. So today will be sled pull and wall balls with running. However you mix it up, it's not a sim, but it's a Hyrox workout that's going to take an hour, and it's going to be in that kind of sub-threshold range. I think doing too many sims can lead you into a false sense of security because they're definitely easier, and you don't want to be doing a race every week. But if you did one sim a month because you like doing them, and now people are running sims they're almost Hyrox, and the people are winning flags, and you get a bit of a community feel to it, go and do it. But I'd say, be smart with it. Every week's probably too much. But if you're doing one a month because you enjoy doing them, go and do them. Is there any negatives? It's probably not enough volume, really, to get better at those things. But if you're doing 2 or 3 other sessions throughout the week where you're hitting the things that you're weaker in and then maintaining the things that you're stronger in, sim and have fun. Go and do it. Go and do a double sim. Like you could do
Double sims are all right, aren't they? They're not too stressful.
Yeah, no, you're like, it's a different type of race, but it's still gonna get you used to. It's probably more applicable because it could more. It probably feels more similar in a doubles sim than it does an individual sim because like we said earlier, I just don't know what it is, but. Yeah, you could do a double sim all the time. Like it's like a sport. Like if you want to do it and you want to go and experience that, and you can get a sim for 10 or 20 quid, or you can do it in your own gym with your friend. Why not train together and blast it out? It's finding the right balance.
It comes back to that enjoyment part of it, rather than going, oh no, I can't do a sim. I shouldn't do a sim. It's too stressful on the body. But like, yeah, if you find it loads of fun to do a sim and you feel up for it, then why not?
Yeah. But practice what you want. If you want to change something in your race, right? Like I said to you, Jason, slow your runs down by 15 seconds or 10 seconds and then see how hard you can push the stations before you absolutely implode. Go and practice that. You do that 2 or 3 times and you think, shit, this works. Like, or this works, or that didn't work. I'm not doing that again because it took me 44 days to do the wall balls. So, like, you find a balance with trying to practice what you're doing and get better at what you need to do, but still maintain maintain all the good things in training, or the things that all your strengths, and then work harder on the things that you're not so good at. So if you're really good at training and not very good at racing, which sounds weird, right?
Yeah,
but it happens. I was always always the opposite end. In running, I was always rubbish at training. Like I love jogging around the place and doing a little bit of threshold and stuff. But I used to be part of a club and I'd go to a track session and they just towel me up and I'd be like blowing out the back door. We'd get to a race and then I'd make them my bitch. And people ask me that were running back when I was running back then what my marathon times were. And people actually after my London and around 2:25 were texting me saying, you have no right running that time. Times on the paper, mate. I chips on, did it like because of the way I trained. I just trained smart, but within myself. Like even if you look at the stuff Kipchoge says, like the bloke's ran 2 hours for a marathon, and he says he never goes above 90% in training. And why would you leave it for race day? I get that sometimes we want to test ourselves and see where we're at. Yeah, do that in a sim. But then go back to doing the basics and do the basics well and do the thing. Like I heard this quote the other day and I said it to my wife and she said, it sounds like a bit of an insult, but I said, it's not if you think about the person that I am or do the things that be the best at doing the things that require no talent. So, get up, do the work and just put one foot in front of the other. It requires no talent, being on time, being disciplined, like being consistent. They don't require any talent, but they will make you better. Like, and if you can always fall back, and if your worst day is better than most people's best day, then you're going to beat them, or you're going to win, or you're always going to make progress. Just turn up, be consistent, and keep working on those weaknesses. And it's frustrating, and it will drive you mental. And there will be days where you think, "Why am I doing this? What's the point? I could go and play darts, and I could have a pint with it." But if you want to get better, you've just got to keep showing up and doing the work. Like, ask other people what they think and get advice from different places. But there is no shortcuts for hard work or work, in fact. Like, it doesn't even have to be hard work, just doing the work. Like, I put a post out today. There are no hacks with any of this. Like, you need to show up. You need to put the reps in. You need to put the time in. And you need to just consolidate what you're doing and just keep moving forward. And endurance training is the biggest roller coaster you'll ever be on. Like, you massive highs and massive lows, and you will be going for months on end and you will feel like you've made no progress. You will wake up the next day and it will feel like you've got a superpower, and what used to be your jogging pace, what used to be your threshold pace will be your jogging pace now, and it makes no sense, and I still don't understand it and probably never will. But the greatest weapon in this is showing up and doing the work and doing it smartly. But you can't do that if you keep cranking it all the time. So if you do sims every week, cool. But don't do them at 100%. Do them at 80 or 90%. Like, do parts of it, like we said, testing different things. But find a balance that works for you. And, like, be aware that all the other things in your life add to that as well. So you can't be burning the candle at both ends, then trying to train every day at Mach 10. So stress is stress, isn't it?
What are your favorite client success stories?
So I've got a few, that. So I think we've had. I'm not sure how many. I can't even. We've about 10 that qualified for world champs this year so far,
Wow.
which is like. I won't get into mine. I've qualified 5 times, but I haven't been invited. Thanks, Hyrox. But I'm whinging about that constantly. They won't reply to my emails. But ones that have come, I don't know, ones that have come from other people, and then come across to me, and then run PBs and manage to qualify for world champs. So there's a couple of those this year. Which, not saying that I'm better than anybody else, but I feel like it's really nice to get people where they want to be after they've been trying to do it for a while. So
rather than taking like newbie gains, someone who's
yeah,
not done it before.
so yeah, there's a couple of people that have come across some other people that are quite big coaches, and then gone ahead onto podium and get qualified for world champs, which I think is cool. And like, honestly, I can come across as blunt and quite like to the matter of fact. So I just tell people how it is, and sometimes like it comes with love. Like, I know it sounds cheesy, but like, I say it to be kind. I heard another quote the other day, but like, the difference between being nice and kind, like, being nice is not telling someone they have broccoli in their teeth when they're eating, and being kind is politely telling them that they have broccoli in their teeth so they don't leave you and other people see it. But I know it's random, but sometimes I try to be kind, but without the nice edge of telling them why I'm telling them what I'm telling them, or putting it across. So
Yeah, you don't need
sometimes
to
I
dress it
come
up with a
across as a bit
bow.
of an arsehole. Yeah, which is not what I mean to do, but I'm very blunt. So if someone does something that I don't agree with, I'll just tell them they shouldn't have done it. Sometimes I'll tell them why, but I won't do it probably as sensitive as I should. I don't. Sometimes I just don't. Yeah, that's how I would just want to be told something. So just tell me exactly what you think, and it makes it easier for me that I don't have to dance around the social awkwardness of doing something, which some people love, and some people. I think that some of the younger ones sometimes tell me off for being a bit harsh, but I think they know now that I'm doing it for a reason, rather than, and I mean well by it, rather than just being a dickhead.
Well, there's an art to being a coach, isn't there? There's so many things wrapped up in it, and there's the people bring in like the daddy issues and the parental, and there's all this like dominant stuff, and there's so many things going on and subtleties, which will you know which will egg someone on more because maybe you didn't focus in, maybe you didn't give them that pat on the back they wanted. I don't know how much psychology of it coaches really think about, or whether it's just natural.
No, yeah, I think it's a blend of both, but like, I think it's a lot harder online than it is face to face. Face to face coaching's easier to build rapport and a relationship with people. Online, like you have to try harder. But when people start seeing results, it's a lot easier to get buy-in. So if they start performing better, and if anyone asks me a question, I will answer them honestly and tell them exactly what I think about that situation or what they should do. And I don't shy away from having difficult conversations with people. I think if it needs to be done, it needs to be done. I think if you've done something that goes against my philosophy and the way I'm trying to coach you, I'm going to tell you that, because we need to work together, and it's a two-way thing. So if I'm giving you stuff and you're not giving me anything back, I will often tell you need to work harder, because it's not just me. If some people need it to be, I give them the training and they forget about, like, we hardly talk and they will get on with it and smash it, and I'll give feedback on their workouts. Other people, it's a lot more to and fro, and it'll be some people I'll be talking to them on 3 different platforms in one day. It'll be Instagram, text message, and on the Fitter app, and I'm like, I speak to them more than my wife, and sometimes and everyone's slightly different. And I think it's easier to build that up in real life, and it takes more effort online. But I think when you start to see the results, and these people start to see that the way that I think and the way that I try to coach people works, and you know, their coaches are lying if they tell you that they write a perfectly individual program for every single person. They're lying, because there aren't enough hours in the day. Everybody has a template that they work to and a philosophy. So I build templates and then customize them for different people, because like there's a philosophy, like a training system that I have that works, and I change it all the time, and I test it all myself. So like I've tested everything, and some workouts have been written on the whiteboard to go in a program, and then we finish the workout, or not even finish the workout, and I test it with a couple of other people in a small group, and there's plenty that have been wiped off the whiteboard, never to see the light of day, for people that I coach. I don't just write random stuff and then send it out and think, oh, let's see what happens. I make sure it's all tested, and then people are like, can I just run this faster? I'm like, I promise you, I've tested it along with everything else we've done in the week in the program. I've tried it faster, I've tried it slower. The balance is there. Trying it faster might work well for this one, but then the knock-on effect for the rest of the training means that you're burnt out and not being able to hit the rest of it. So I do test everything, and I do try and make sure it's fit for that person, and everyone is slightly different. Some people can handle, like, you know, if you're in your 20s, you can handle serious load compared to when you get to 30s and 40s, and putting your shoes on is hard enough. So, you know, I coach people from, do I have any teenagers now? I think they've all hit 20, up to late 40s, I think is the oldest. I don't know if I've got anyone in their 50s, but yeah, late 40s probably. And they all have different needs and different abilities. So it's interesting, but it can be difficult.
Who would be the perfect avatar for like a client to come to you? Like, what level do you like to get them at? And you know, is there, you know, like a real nice sweet spot?
My wife asks me this all the time, because she's like, you need to know who you're selling to. But I don't think there is, because I like the challenge of some, like, I don't like there, I find real tricky, but like I still think I learn from them. So I think I learn to be a better coach and a better person by coaching them, which is, and like, I'd love to have 30 people that pay me whatever a month, 150, 200 quid a month, for me to write their program and never speak to them. But I wouldn't get any better. I'd just be taking the money and running. Do you know what I mean? And I feel bad doing that. So I constantly try to check in with people to make sure that they're okay, even if they don't want to give me too much feedback. And some you learn to just leave alone and let them crack on with it, and they come to you when they want you. And others you need to be on all the time, and some want to tell you all of their problems, which is fine. And I like that. What I don't like is if I give people training and coaching and they do it their own way. So they try and make everything harder than it needs to be. They push all of the paces. They add in extra training on top of all of that, because that's not me coaching them. Then that's them taking some stuff off me, and twisting it, and I can't be held accountable to that then, because when I say to them, you can't be doing this, because what the program I'm delivering you, or the training I'm delivering you, is built for a reason, and is built for you. Adding in the extra stuff, I can't stand by that. So that I find irritating, but then I have to learn to deal with that and talk them out of it, or show them ways that they don't need to do that. And it is a lot of insecurity and ego-driven stuff, where we're in this world where we feel that more and harder is better, because that's what we're sold. And if you looked at Instagram or TikTok or any of the other platforms, you scroll through, everyone's on there sending it, covered in baby oil, looking wicked, and that's not real world. Like, so, you need to stress your body and then rest and recover. And if you're not doing it properly and you're not doing it the way I set, I'm not coaching you, you're coaching yourself, and so it doesn't work that way. So I would say no perfect, but some that I'd prefer not to do, and that's probably the way. Yeah.
But you're always going to have like interesting people to deal with who are into Hyrox. Yeah, it takes a unique type of person who wants to do Hyrox.
But a very varied type of like cohort as well. Like there are some real far left and far right. Like they're all very different, but yeah, we all obviously have the same innate want to hurt ourselves.
Yeah. What about I don't know, we're going to wrap up shortly, but a quick overview on nutrition supplementation. Got any thoughts on that?
Yeah, so I get quite a bit of stick for this. Like, I think that the quality of your food when you're trying to do this is maybe a little bit overrated. You need to eat lots, and whether that has to be in different forms, like we have a little bit of a joke that Fridays are chippy Fridays for me. So like I do a big workout. Sometimes I'll go to McDonald's after, and then later on I'll have a chippy. But for some reason, like the next day I wake up like recovered because I've had enough food. Like I don't do it all the time, and like my protein helped me out with some stuff, and I end up taking a lot of like recovery shakes or bits and pieces because I can't get enough calories in a normal food. But I ended up eating a lot of peanut butter and jam on toast and things like that, easy oats with protein and stuff along those lines. But I think you need to eat more than you think you need to eat for this. So if you're trying to lose weight and perform well in endurance sport, you are on a fast track to disaster. You need to make sure that you are eating enough food. And like, I'm not saying eat crap all the time, like eat healthy stuff, but make sure you're eating enough. Like if you can get as much whole food in as you can with fruit, fruit, vegetables and meat and potatoes or whatever it is, great. If you can't, you need to supplement it with other things because that is more important than not eating enough. Like there's plenty of research out there with reds now and stuff. So if there's a lot of impact on this in running as well. So the last thing you want is a stress fracture or something like that from not eating enough or being burnt out. And like if you don't eat enough, you don't sleep properly either. Like there's more food is better.
Are you referring to the reds as in the food, the red food?
No, as in energy deficit in sport. REDS. I forgot what the R is now, but yeah, the basically not eating enough. And then leading to burnout and injury and stuff. So, there's quite a lot on the female part as well. But you need to eat more than you think you need to eat. Like, if you're training twice a day, even if you're sat around a lot of the other time, you're still going to be burning an extra 1,500 calories on top of what your normal BMR is, like, or RMR on top of that. So you've got to eat the food to be able to perform the next day. And like, I know if I haven't eaten enough from like the first 10 minutes of a workout, like that I haven't eaten enough the day before because it will be rubbish. Whereas if I've had enough, I'll feel strong and get a better training stimulus out of it. And so what if I'm in a kilo or two heavier? Like it's easier to push the sled, isn't it?
Yeah. This is something I like. Yeah, I sort of like bounce back and forth, just like my gut does with my approach to like food. Like I feel like I go through these periods of like, right, I'm just gonna nail my calories. I'm gonna be calorie counting. I'm gonna be measuring my stomach. I'm gonna be, I can just get into that zone. I can be quite good at it. Like, and then what will happen is then I'll get bored of that, and then I'll start eating lots again. I'll be like, oh, it's all about recovery and just chilling out, and it doesn't matter, like I can eat like lots because I'm training. And then funnily enough, literally yesterday I was like, I'm getting a bit fat. I need to go back.
It's hard, isn't it? you need to find something that you can maintain, like,
Mm,
and sustain. Like that, no diet works, does it? Unless it's a lifestyle change that you can maintain for a long period of time. So for me, it if I stop training, I'll probably get fat.
mm,
Because, but then on days I see on if I don't train very hard, or see if I don't run in the morning and I don't, and I'm on a taper week, I don't eat as much. Like my body just doesn't get as hungry.
mm.
Like so, I do eat more during higher blocks of training just because my body asks for it. I think, but it's everyone's slightly different. I think if you've come from previous where you were overweight, or you've got, you know,
Mm.
things where you've body image things, it's really difficult to do. For me to
Yeah.
tell people, right, you need to eat more. Like, I had a really crap training session today. Right, okay, what did you eat today? What did you eat yesterday? Like, are you eating enough calories? Yeah, yeah, yeah. And but I don't. I sometimes I tell people to just get My Fitness Pal, download
Mm.
it, track yourself for a couple of days, and then some people get a real realization that they're trying to train twice a day on 1,800 calories,
Yeah.
wondering why they're not doing very well. Eat more.
Yeah, for sure. And I think having like a an awareness of how certain foods make you feel and how I think definitely, because I look at if 'cause I love peanut butter jam, bagels, whatever, but wheat just doesn't seem to agree with me, or it may be the excessive jam, who knows? But for some reason, it just I can probably train quite well for them, but what happens for me, I end up, if I have them in the house, next minute I'm eating that on the sofa, and I'm falling asleep with like a sugar rush, and it's like that's
Yeah,
not good for you. Whereas there are certain other things with the same energy value that I can eat and feel absolutely fine. So it's knowing those things, isn't it?
yeah. I don't have biscuits in my house because I'll open a pack and they'll all be gone, as opposed to two. I don't have
Yeah,
any restraint with them, so yeah, it's just finding
yeah.
what works for you.
Before we finish up, let's do the overrated, underrated section. We'll fly through them as quick as you can. Most overrated and underrated food.
Oh, overrated is avocado. Underrated is peanut butter and jam and toast.
Is it underrated?
But some, yeah, yeah,
uh,
superfood.
supplement.
Underrated is creatine. There's so many overrated.
Mm,
Um, I would say pre-workout is probably the most overrated. Like I know it's technical, but it's so overrated.
mm,
Like there's actually sort of reading some stuff the other day that it didn't have any more beneficial effect than just a cup of coffee. So I just go with a cup of coffee now and sometimes a slice of toast or something, or banana or something like that, rather than pre-workout. It often makes me feel sick anyway. But loads of people chucking it down the throat. But
yeah,
it's not for me.
caffeine's the best. Uh, exercise.
Oh, yeah, that's difficult. Underrated, I'd say, just like the specific
Mm,
underrated is what I've said the whole time.
yeah,
So yeah, do the exercise to get better at the exercise. Like specificity is an underrated exercise.
yeah.
Overrated, Olympic lifting for anything other than Olympic lifting.
Mm,
I think
interesting.
the amount of time it takes to get good at Olympic lifting to get a return on that can be done better through other things. So if you want to develop power, you can do it through other things like kettlebell swings or ballistic movements, even squat jumps with a barbell are going to get most people 90% of the way there. Olympic lifting, I love watching it. If you can do it properly, it's beautiful. If you can, it's a horrible, horrible mess. So
Mm,
I think it's overrated for the general public. It's obviously not for Olympic lifters. But if you're in sport, you can do a lot better. You can do a lot better exercises within the time that it takes to learn those really complex movements.
mm. And habit. Overrated, underrated.
This overrated is hustle, work hard all the time culture. Like I don't think it's like get up at 4 o'clock and
Mm,
journal and then whatever and train and then go to bed. Like yeah, under like underrated sleep habits, like having a sleep routine, like that habit of like setting your sleep pattern to the same time every day or within, a certain, and sleep's a superpower. Like, yeah, I don't know if it's a habit, but yeah, having the habit of going to bed at the same time and getting up at the same time, I'd say.
Defo. All right, awesome. Any goals for this year?
Yeah. Well, I want to go, if I get to world champs, if they actually then just send me the thing, I want to win age group world champs in Chicago in June. Like I wanted to win it last year, and I got norovirus the day before, and it was a mess. I still went to Nice and did the doubles with my wife, but yeah, I missed out, and I thought it was my best chance. I've been on the podium once. I want to be on the top step this year of the age group. Before I go into the next one next year, then I definitely will be winning it.
Awesome. I'll look forward to seeing that. All right. And where can people find you if they want to find out all about your coaching, etc.? Chance for a bit of a plug.
Yeah, mainly Instagram. Like I don't really use Facebook anymore or TikTok. So WDM Coaching on Instagram, and that's pretty much it. And then you can find a link to my Coaching Fitter site on there on my bio anyway.
Thank you for this, Aaron. I've really appreciate your time. Could have gone on for much longer. I love all this stuff and appreciate all your insights and stuff. And hopefully people will check you out and seek you out for some coaching. So thank you.
Thanks, mate. Nice one.
Have a good day. Cheers.
And you guys. See you later, boy.
Hey guys, it's me. Thank you so much for watching that episode and congratulations for making it all the way to the end. I really appreciate it. A few things before you get going. If you haven't already, please do subscribe. And if you enjoyed this episode, the kindest thing you can do for me is to share it with a friend or family member. Don't forget to check out the show notes for links to both my guests and myself. And if you made it this far, why don't you drop me a DM?